representing Cornell at the National Forensics Finals in debate. So this is Daniel Klein. He agreed to let us use his story even if we couldn't get him on the line. He's supposed to be hopping on a plane, as I said, so maybe the plane's left early. Maybe he's lucky. So Dan turned out to be a member of one of these Middle Eastern genetic lineages. So he tested his Y chromosome, and his Y chromosome, and he belongs to haplogroup J1. Now, the reason I say it's Middle Eastern is because more than 90% of the J1s are found in Middle Eastern populations. Very high frequencies in the Arabian Peninsula, over 70% there, also in other places in the Middle East. And it delineates, of course, that second expansion out of Africa into the Middle East 45 to 50,000 years ago, people who stuck around there for a long time. And then they were also among the first farmers. So beginning around 10,000 years ago, they probably originated somewhere over in this region. They expanded to the south, down into Ethiopia and places in northeastern Africa, down into the Arabian Peninsula, and out into North Africa. So it's primarily, as I said, a Middle Eastern genetic lineage. But we do see it occasionally in European populations. And Dan has told us, he was actually quite surprised when we had the reveal event for the 200 people who swabbed, a private event on Sunday, that he thinks of himself as being European. Now, he's Ashkenazi Jewish, but he again thinks of himself primarily as being European. And what I told him was that haplogroup J is not limited to the Middle East. It's also found in Ashkenazi Jewish populations in Europe, and that is as a result of the Jewish diaspora. Now, he was really curious about this, and you saw him in the film. He was talking about the Abrahamic lineage and so on. And he wanted to know what additional information we could gather by comparing him to the database. And it turns out that he is a member of a subtype, or subset of J1s, known as J1C3D. Now, this is a lineage that originated most likely in the northern part of the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East between 5,000 and 6,000 years ago. And it spread throughout the Fertile Crescent and down into the Arabian Peninsula over the last few thousand years. And today it's found at high frequency in Jews in the Middle East and Ashkenazi Jews in Europe. Around 15% of European Jews are members of J1C3D. But also the Adnani Arab tribes, and these are the northern Arabs. Now, Muhammad was actually a northern Arab. And data that hasn't been published yet, but it's been collected in collaboration with an Arab genealogist. Genetic and genealogical data suggests that Muhammad was also part of this J1C3D lineage. Now, how does that work? How do we see it in both Jews and Arabs? Over 70% in some of these Adnani Arab tribes. Well, the Adnani Arabs take their name from Adnan. And looking back through the stories in the Quran and in the Torah, Adnan was the son of Ishmael. And Ishmael was the son of Abraham, the oldest son of Abraham. And Ishmael is generally considered by the Quran to be the founder of the Arab tribes. Now, the Jewish tribes trace their ancestry, of course, to Jacob, also known as Yisrael, and he's the son of Isaac, the second son of Abraham. So that J1C3D lineage that's shared between the Adnani Arabs and the Jews is consistent with this story. It doesn't prove the story in the Bible or the Torah, but again, it's entirely consistent with that. And it's very interesting that as we gather more information, very high-resolution genetic information, we're starting to confirm some of these stories that we hear about from myths, religious texts, and so on. So it's a fascinating Y chromosome lineage.